Yo, yo. What's up, Nico? What's popping with you, baby?
No, not much, man. Just came from work. I'm excited to do this podcast with my homie. And yeah, just exciting.
All
We
right.
have a couple of views on our past podcast. I see
All
a
right.
future. I
Okay.
see us
All right.
going somewhere. I like that.
All the way from Colombia. You said the first subscribers in Colombia, right? All right, baby. We
Exactly. From
international.
overseas. From
Overseas.
overseas. We're moving up.
International. All right. All right.
International.
So topic today is about respecting of the role versus of respecting of an individual. So I pose this question to you. It's kind of broken down into three parts. So I'm gonna start off with the first part. Can you respect someone in the role they play, or respect someone for the craft and the with the master of the craft that they commit? Can you respect someone in their role but not respect the individual? That's the first part.
Well, I think it depends.
Okay.
It depends on how how separate the role is from the individual. Does that make sense? Like
Okay.
how,
I'm gonna ask you to
for,
elaborate, but okay, how separate the role is from the individual. Okay.
right. So just for example, um, I actually can't think of any examples, but if the actual role is being done at a really, like you said, at a very, if they're very successful at it, pretty much,
Okay.
which would be, to me, in my mind, I kind of see it like way here to one side. And then if the actual person
Mhm.
is very well, which is subjective, but it's not the best person. They lie. They might even be late to work or what they're doing, or they're dishonest. All of that, they're way here. So how separate is that? Because a lot of times the way people are is exactly how the role is. Sometimes people put on the actual acts when they're at work, and sometimes people just kind of don't care and blend in, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
And that's number one. And number two, I think it also has to do with the person, man. With the actual person that's analyzing the person at this role. So, for example, if it's happened to me at work a lot of times where
Mhm.
I don't agree with the manager or supervisor, but when they say something, I I actually don't even say okay. I just turn around and do it. It may be my I may think it doesn't make sense, or clearly it doesn't make sense, but hey, at the end of the day, they got the position, I didn't, for whatever reason. They wanted it, I didn't want it, or this is just where we are and they make the call. So does that make sense? So it depends on the person as well. What do you think?
Oh, all right. So, all right. So you opened up something else for me in that regards when you're looking at management authority and how you respond. So, all right, I'm gonna break it down. So, when we look at a role, when you say someone's playing in that role and they do that role very well, so the first thing that comes to mind is, say, an actor or an actress. They can take on a character, they can take on the role, and they can kill it. They can smash that role. They can make you literally believe that that character is a real person, and I'm talking about they could Oscar award winning performance, right? But if you were to hear about or get to know or see that actress or actor in their everyday light as a normal human being, you might find out that they might not be the greatest human being in the world. They might actually be trash human being. They might be bigoted. They might be racist. They might be sexist. They literally might be a trash individual. Yet they can play a magnificent role on a silver screen. The idea is, okay, you can respect them for the craft, you can respect them in the role, but if you got to know the person, you wouldn't respect the individual based on how they conduct themselves. Get an idea with that?
No, no, no. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I understand. What was you said it was breaking broken down into three things. You said
Yeah.
number one, and what was the second one?
All right. So that was number one, the actor and the actress says way. So the second one is, all right, let's bring it a little closer to home. Certain there's certain there's certain occupations that require a little bit closer to the chest when it comes to respect. When you said when you did like well, how it depends on how close the role is to the person. So say you got a doctor, a lawyer, a paramedic, a police officer, right? So you got these. So you have these industries and these occupations that usually require a certain level of trust and integrity. You can have the best doctor, miracle surgeon, right? Does great work, has a love for the job and what he does or she does, but the person has terrible bedside manner and really is cold and callous toward the patient, doesn't really care for the patient, cares more about the position and the role and maybe the breakthroughs they make in, say, medicine and science, but not really, like I said, doesn't really have great bedside manner. How would you respond to that individual? Say you were your grandma. Your grandma goes to the hospital. Grandma goes to see a doctor. Got a great doctor, undisputed, awesome doctor, but he treats your grandma like crap. You can respect him for the role that he plays and what he's capable of doing in the craft, but would you respect that doctor and as an individual?
Well, I mean, the actual answer is, I mean, it's kind of obvious. I mean, no, I don't want you to disrespect my grandmother like that, or my mother, or someone I care about deeply. But I don't know. I just kind of see it as what you need out of that individual at the moment. So am I going to like, say you and I met some people at the club, and then they invite us to their house to have to like a barbecue. Are we trying to make friends, or in this case, am I trying to save my grandma's life? Does that make sense? So I may not respect the doctor as a person, but at the same time, I'm like, this, I feel like this may be the only person that can save my grandma. So
you
if
respect
he,
the role. You respect the role and actual the occupation of what the person does, what they're capable of. You respect their capabilities.
because of what I need out of that person in that one situation. Does that make sense?
Fair enough. Fair enough. But all right. When you look at a person, Dr. John Smith, right? You give John Smith as an individual, but that doctor on the front of his name, does that warrant respect for the academia he's completed, maybe the residency? Do you put respect on his name because of the what he's achieved, the doctor or the esquire for the lawyer? Do you have respect for the role, while you might not have respect for the individual? Very plausible, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just,
All right. I got another one for you. Okay. Lawyer, judge, police officer, paramedic. Okay. You give respect to the lawyer. Definitely got to give respect to the judge in his courtroom.
definitely the judge.
You have definitely got to get a judge. The paramedic, kind of like the doctor, and the police officer. I'm gonna say that one for last. If you discover that these individuals are top of their class, they do the job superbly, all kind of accolades, great. But if you find out that a judge or a lawyer or a paramedic, or especially, like I said, I'm a whole police officer at the end, you find out they are socially a garbage human being. I'm talking about they could be racist, homophobic, xenophobic, sexist. Though in those aspects where you respect the role or you respect the position, especially when we live in this country where we say, oh, respect the authority, but you find out this individual, especially through their body of work, though they might have all the accolades, their body of work also might dictate that this person, again, is a trash human being. They socially, in regards to their interaction with other individuals, they can be from just being unpleasant to almost being detrimental to toxic in regards to them as an individual. I think in this regard, I'm gonna get your opinion on this. There are certain occupations where, especially when it's integrity based, honor based, certain things that have basis on morals and good judgment, a person cannot have questionable credibility as an individual in a certain role and still be respected. When you said the closeness of the individual to the role, when you are a lawyer or it's doctors as well, a judge, a police officer, or a paramedic, When you have, say, a Hippocratic oath to take care of the people, you cannot have questionable ethics or questionable morals. So when it comes to how close you are to your occupation is a lot of times based on, are you due respect as an individual? So while you might have Super Cop out there, if he's a garbage human being, that his character will then bleed into his judgment. And if it's biased, especially has negative biases in certain groups, certain individuals, then yeah, I won't be able to respect that individual from on an individual level, but I won't be respect them in that role either, because they probably based on their individual character, they might not be fit for that role. And that's a lot of, and it's usually in those roles of authority. Like, do you taking, like, say you taking the management person, might be great manager, put up great numbers and all of that, but if they lack integrity, or they lack, the positive attributes of a good character, I won't be able to respect them as an individual. I'm not going to be able to respect them in the role either. What do you feel on that?
Well, I agree and disagree. I think I already said why I kind of disagree, but I agree in the way that I feel like how do I explain it? When who you are as a person at your core is the center of all of your characters in life. So for example, when you as a boyfriend, you as a son, you as a dad, you as a, so on and so forth, you as an actor, whatever. So that that person influences all of these people that you are at the same time. Does that make sense? So if this person in the middle, in the center, which is kind of the center of all of these people at once that you are, if that person doesn't have, say, X, Y, Z thing, all the other people are unable to have that also, because though they get everything from this person in the middle that you always are, that you always have been, and most likely may not even change in my opinion. But if so yeah, pretty much you begin as that center person, and then from that person you go over, and then you're a dad, you're a son, you're an employee and everything. Because if, say for example, you're a person with anger management, because I don't know what happened in your family when you were a kid, now you're way more likely to be a manager.
Disclaimer, I don't have anger management issues. Let's just go ahead. This is an example. This is an example. Okay.
It's just an example, everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're a person with anger management because you have something in you, then now when you become this person at work, say a doctor, then you're gonna bring that on. And now, what if you get too emotional about a decision, and then now someone's well-being may be in jeopardy? It doesn't mean that you're a bad doctor. Doesn't mean that you've had 10 years of residency and a bunch of diplomas. Doesn't mean that you're not a great doctor. But inside this person that's really the beginning of everything you are, and all of these characters that you play in life, it's gonna end up affecting it.
Possibly, but we as human beings, we have a good way of coping and creating mechanisms to basically present ourselves in different lights and in different dynamics. So when you go to work, people say it all the time. I have my work face. I have my mask when I go to work. I have my mask in different relationships. I have my mask when I'm with my family. And some people even have a mask when they're looking at themselves in the mirror, not knowing who they truly are and living in their truth, to basically to kind of go walk around in regards to who they truly are at any given time. So like we say, all right, the role, you in those situations, yeah, you say you could be a great doctor. That's the role. That's the role you play. And some people, that's what that role defines them a lot of times. I am the great doctor. I am the great dad. I am the top dude on Call of Duty or whatever. That's me. People immerse themselves in those characters, in those roles, and that's who they come off. they might, parts of their character, their individual core selves might bleed into that. They might be obnoxious in real life, and then they bring that to their character. But a lot of times, some people come into the role with a completely different persona, because a role allows them to be somebody different. Just like the actor or the actress, I could be somebody completely different. I could be Lord Baratheon from Game of Thrones if I wanted to. I feel like I'm getting in trouble for saying stuff like this on HBO, but hey, whatever. I feel like you could be anybody, you play a role, but at the end of the day, are you playing a role, or are you who you are in a role? I guess that kind of depends on, I guess, how you come at it. And you know, those are components in that regard, like how close you are to the role. Now, I'm gonna ask you this: with the police situation, Nico, like, look at all those professions. So if you know that a certain individual is beating his wife, abusing his children, right? And you find out later on that he's a decorated police officer, not trying to get on the cops, but I think a lot of time it has it with authority. You realize as an individual, you can't respect this man for how he conducts himself in his life, be it his personal life. Would you respect him in the role? You know, beyond him pulling you over and having authority at any given time, would you from a separation or distance, would you respect an individual who you know conducts himself less than admirable in real life? Would you respect them in a role of authority?
I mean,
Not if not
I don't think so.
not in those
Competing,
situations where you have to, not in those situations where it's a dynamic to where they're in control and you're not. It's one of those situations where like there's no interaction, you know, that it's not an active situation. It's basically like, hey, I didn't know so and so who does this and this and this to his family and his people also is in this profession. Would you respect that individual knowing that they conduct themselves like this? Would you respect them in that specific profession?
oh, I actually wouldn't think so, man.
Okay.
Quite honestly, no. I mean, because
So wait.
some things, yeah.
So what if it was pimping? What if it was pimping? If you realize a dude was out here living crazy, would you respect him as a pimp?
If he was what living crazy, what do you mean?
Yeah, like he was, like say he
Like
was
being a bad
like
person, but being a
yeah, like
pimp too?
he was smacking up the ladies, taking the money, being a pimp in pimp ways. Would you but his occupation warrants that? Would you be like, oh, okay, how he
Wait, is
lives
the
in his
police
regular
officer a
life?
pimp too? Or is this
Oh,
is a different example?
no, it's a different example. Different example.
Oh, okay.
Like, if would you respect someone? All right, a mercenary or someone or a bounty hunter, right? A bounty hunter, someone who has to be a little bit rougher, a little bit more aggressive. They are rough in their regular life. That you might not agree with how they live their life, but the way that they live their life is definitely adhered to the job that they have. Would you be more apt to respect them? Well, maybe until you don't respect that individual, but would you respect them in that given profession if the two marinate, if they're close, you know, if one begets the other?
I think it would be. I think it's not only about respect or not, but it's about how much I believe said acts are relevant to us. Like, for example, in the doctor example, he may even be treating my grandma rudely, but if he's gonna save her life, be my guest almost. So it's like that's kind of my point. Does that make sense? How relevant is this to me? And not only on a personal level, but also, for example, being physically abusive to their wife. Now that
He just froze up.
or being physically abusive to the wife, that's a really strong thing. So that I wouldn't respect either. Does that make sense? Even though it has nothing to do with me. Now then, even though it's not, it doesn't matter to me. Now I wouldn't respect you because of that. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Would it
At all?
But in those situations where someone has authority to make judgments over you, the judge in the courtroom, knowing that that person doesn't have integrity.
Wait. Let me turn the Wi-Fi off. There you go. Sorry, that always stops. What were you saying?
So in aspects of judgment, when it comes to, say, a judge in a courtroom making certain calls, if that person is, say, has no scruples, they don't conduct themselves in a integritous fashion, and you know about this, how do you feel going into a courtroom knowing that the judge might carry certain biases, certain discriminatory factors?
Oh, that's where you were going all along.
No, I'm going somewhere else. But
okay.
But think about it. In certain aspects, if someone had to make a judgment, say it was your manager or your regional manager, a person who has the authority to make decisions, and you realize that, oh man, dude, this manager, maybe low key, maybe not, is racist, is a sexist, is a bigot. What if you determine those aspects? You definitely might not respect the individual, but you have to acknowledge that the way that they are, can they completely be impartial? If you know that their character, their core is in this fashion, you have to expect that the things about them as an individual you don't respect will 9 times out of 10, unless they're really playing a good role. I'm talking about literally Academy Award. If they're literally trying to get play a role Golden Globe level, are they really going to be so impartial and so unbiased in the role, but then turn right back around and be racist at home, be a sexist at home, be a bigot at home, and be able to turn that off when they come into the courtroom, or when they go to the precinct, or when they get on the job site?
It's highly unlikely. I don't think it's impossible, but it's just highly unlikely.
Yeah, because there's split personality syndrome. I could believe in that, but yeah, man, I guess that's where I look at it in regards to where respect is very important in regards to establishing it and knowing, what do we respect? Do we respect the individual? Do we respect what they do? Do we respect what they bring to the table? Do we respect how they interact and make better others in regard? I guess we look at those different facets. And all right, I'm gonna get to the third part. It's gonna kind of tarry off of the employer, right? So we all been in this situation. We got all different kind of characters at a job, You was over at I remember you was at the call center, so you've dealt with every kind of person, right? Same here. You have those people that work amongst you that, again, they are less than they are less than admirable. They are people that we all know, people that nobody wants to be around, that nobody can trust. There are these archetypes of people. So you'll have the employee that will steal somebody's food. They'll steal. They'll lie. They'll plot. You got those people. You got those people that no one can deal with, right? And employers know about these individuals, and it's very problematic when these type of individuals get in positions of authority, brown nosers, the whole like. Now, we can flat out say there's these type of individuals that we've worked with, we don't respect. We don't respect how they conduct themselves. We don't respect how they get down. It's known. They might allude to no one not liking them, but sometimes it's really clear. It's just clear. No, you might not respect this individual. But say an individual that you know of that works in a different adjacent department, has no direct effect on you, is supreme at the job. I'm talking about stellar. I'm talking about employee of the month every month. I'm like, literally, that department might not be able to run without that individual, even though that person is the absolute worst. That person is literally a walking HR department issue, but they are so essential to the actual operation that they have a job. in that aspect, we already might be clear that we don't respect the individual, but can you respect them for how they do their craft, how they play the role in that job? Would you be able to respect that individual in that context?
That that can be answered by different people in that environment, because if the manager sees that, it may even be a supervisor who's around. And I've had a situation very, very similar, but in my example, the person used to cheat a lot. And so if the supervisor's there, maybe they think the same of this person, but you know, he or she is getting those numbers up, making me look good, but making me have a higher, you know, a better paycheck, actually, better bonuses. Supervisor doesn't care. But me, on the other hand, when you're taking my customers, for example, when it's, because this happened, and at the same time, it depends on who you are at the office, and it depends on how much you benefit from the performance of this person. Like I said, the supervisors may also detest this person, but if they're bringing in money to the table, if
They're producing, if they playing the role, they playing up on the role.
Exactly, they're just playing the role. But me, on the other hand, I may not respect it. And you know, when it happened to me and my coworkers, you know, we didn't respect it. We just didn't respect it. That, in that sense, because it's very, you feel that vibe. You feel that vibe. And I think that we as humans, we value that way more. Does that make sense? Like, what if you're so amazing, but I just don't want to be near you, and you know, you bring negative
you
comments.
amazing for the job, man. You killing these numbers, yo. You retaining so many clients, but you trash. You a trash human being. So I'm not going after, I'm not going to the job function after this with you. I'm not hanging out with you after the job. I'm not exchanging numbers. I'm not exchanging Facebook or Instagram or none of that. I don't want to know what you're into. I'm not going to ask you about your family. Why are you reaching over your cubicle to even talk to me? You know, do your job and we'll be good. Now, you meshed the two together in regards to how I started off and said, like, look, they were in a different department, not affecting you. But you brought up an example of, say that individual directly affects you in the job and say your productivity. So say you are the attention, you are the target of this trash person's ire. They still doing the job wonderfully. I'm talking about beautifully, but they focus in on you for their trashmaticism. So you don't already respect the person.
You've been in like 5 words already.
Huh?
Yeah, I say you've invented like 5 words already.
Yeah, you know, that's what we do here. That's what we do it. I'm hoping Webster's will give me a call and say what we can
that's
do.
That's the Rico and Nico podcast. That's why you gotta hit the like button, subscribe, comment, notification bell.
Oh, you bragging? That's right. I got to get better at it. We'll figure that part out a little later. I'm more on the tech side, but yeah. In that same regard, if that person is directly affecting you, you already don't respect the person, but now their tactics are targeted upon you. They're still stellar at the job. Do you respect that person in the role and how they getting down? Do you respect them?
No.
At all?
No. I feel like I've been persuaded from the beginning, not intentionally. At the beginning, I was like, well, let's look at the pros and cons. And now I'm like, no. Can't respect them.
Well, I had somewhere I was going with this because, like, you made a really good point that I didn't really see it that way initially, and now I did. When you say it depends on how close that person's core is to the role. So if a person could be somebody completely different than who they truly are in the role, then it doesn't really matter if they're a trash person. The product they put out is so distant from who they are. They could be where they want to be in the closet. What they present to the world is wholesome and really doesn't really have a question unless there happens to be an unfortunate merger of the two or something gets out. But as an occupation or a role gets closer to the core person and requires more of the core person to become involved, then issues in that person's integrity or how they conduct themselves can make it or break the role that they are in. Because if you already starting to invite people's not disrespect, but the lack of respect from people or how you conduct yourself, eventually trust and basically faith in the person's doing their role well. They might do their role well, but at the moment they fall or the moment they screw up, it's kind of like it's a domino effect. And worse yet, if like you have to deal with someone who directly their lack of integrity or whatever their issues are, whatever mental health issues or whatever makes them in regards to being a trash human being, when you got to deal with that in that regard, whether they be your employee, employer, whether they be a project mate, whatever, when you have to directly deal with that nonsense and it affects your mental health and affects your productivity, and you really got to look at how they produce and they're not being affected, you have less than you. It's not so much of being that you don't even respect them. When they aim at you and they start targeting you, they start coming at you with disrespect, and that's a whole different aspect, because respect cannot exist in a space where disrespect is tolerated. I coined that. So with that, I'm gonna ask you in that, because I know you've dealt with it before. When you don't have respect for the individual, how they get down, and I'm gonna point it at specific because I know it's an aspect of gender, but I'm gonna break it down. As a man, when you see other men how they conduct themselves, and they conduct themselves in ways not becoming of a man, for whatever reasons they do it, whether it be for personal gain, clout, likes, views, whatever, money. When you become the unfortunate target or the side effect affects you, you already might not have respect for this individual. You might not already know much about this individual, but you can see a little bit and you don't respect it. When you become a target of that, do you believe there is any room to possibly respect this person for how they operate? Can you respect their results, even though those results directly negatively affect you?
I wouldn't think so. You kind of automatically have this bias of saying, well, this doesn't benefit me.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of benefiting, not only does it not benefit me, but it benefits somebody I really don't respect. So now that's a double negative point on that situation. So why would anyone be like, oh yeah, I'm really happy for you? I mean, not really, not even saying it to themselves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of, like, say for example, if you're at work,
Mm-hmm.
right, and then you deal with a lot of customers. So now you have a customer service complaint, but really you yourself forgetting about your job, you're really insecure, you're really nervous, you have low self-esteem. So how do you think that person is going to handle that very, very upset person? Does it matter that they're at work, or do you think that because they're already so insecure and they have low self-esteem that they may not be able to handle that situation as well?
Well, it's a couple of different factors. It depends on that individual and what they bring to the role. They can bring their insecurity into the role, and it might dictate how they interact with the customer, the client. Or they can understand that I can be someone different when I come to this role, and they might not like the person they are when they're one-on-one with themselves. But when they are in a job dealing with customers, they might be in a position of authority. So they can be the authoritarian, they can be the boss. So they can bark down on other employees, they can check clients, they can check customers, or they can be the blessed hope. They can bless the employees, they can bless the customer, they can open all the doors, and they can be showered with praise. So it depends on what that person might get out of the role and how they come into the role. So they can become a whole different person when they come into the role. You know, some people are kittens at home, but when they come into the job, they lions. You know, they dragons. You know, some of the nicest people I've met, when I worked with them, you would think they were the meanest people in the world because they were hard business. But if you met them outside of that, they'd be like, wow, I would never thought you were this type of person. Likewise, I've met people who are nice at the job, but if you get tangled up with them outside of the job, you just be wishing like you worked in a different department. So it just kind of depends on what that person brings to the role. Now, those who get a little closer in their core with the role, you'll have those people that always you have the chronic complainers, the people who are always missing deadlines and always late, the people that are always finding an excuse. You'll get more of that kind of individual in the role, because they're really bringing, if that's them, that's who they bring to the role. That's what's going on. They're bringing what's in the house to the office. And then sometimes you get a good kind of person that basically like how they are at home. They're as organized, they're as driven on their own projects. They bring it into the job. Now they might be a little bit more abrasive, because we always want to do more for ourselves. Hopefully we want to do more for ourselves than somebody else. So you'll have those people who are ambitious. They'll be ambitious at the job, but they really hopefully will want to be ambitious for their own projects.
Well, but that example, how do you know which person is who's the role and who's the individual, in those cases?
They'll show you because you won't. Some people reveal that up front. Couple of weeks working with them. Sometimes people give you that in training or just light interaction with them. Some people, it depends on certain scenarios and circumstances come out and they reveal themselves. Others, it takes weeks to months to years before you really see them. And some people you'll never see that from, because if you only see them in one dynamic, you'll never see them in another. So it's almost like the employees or the people that you've met that you get on a personal level with. You hang out with them one-on-one. You go to their church. You see them at the college. You go play soccer with them. You see them in different lights, especially you see them in different emotional states: grieving, angry, loss, triumph, in conflict with others, resolving conflict. You get to see the many facets of an individual. The more time you spend with them, the more you go through. So, a person will show you who they are over time, and you'll see that. And now some people got some pretty good masks out there, but you got to see a person in different angles and different facets to truly determine if you know they're wearing a mask and the reasons why they're wearing the mask. And that's a multi-level conversation, but eventually someone will always show you who they are. Guaranteed. They'll show you who they are. Part of it they'll be showing you who they want you to see, but if you see them from enough angles, you'll truly see who they are. Flat out.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. Different angles.
Yep, takes different angles, man. Like you. Like in regards to my respect for you as an individual, when I first met you, you were coming in, starting off on your own in college and whatnot, and I met you in a tight situation. I knew you could have handled it in that regard, but for me, I felt gratifying to myself that if I helped you out in this situation, that I would get some type of gratification doing the right thing, doing good by someone I don't know, and you would carry and pay that forward. And in regards, you weren't stressing out. You weren't really stressing out like you whatever, but it was stressful on you, and it was just a good opportunity to offset a homie that I've been in that situation, wishing that I would have had that same offset of a stressful dealing. So I was like, man, when I extended myself and provided that situation to you, it was serving us both in that situation. And just over the years of knowing you, Nico, man, it's just like I got respect for you because you like you said, you saw your goals, you achieved them. You never been a butthole to me for the most part. But I've seen you in enough facets to kind of be like, all right, Nico has been able to achieve certain things. I know you've been in stressful situations. I know you've been in tight situations. I know you've been in triumphal situations. So I've seen you enough facets to where like, okay, this young man, I could definitely hold respect for him, and hopefully give him something to respect Hell, we're doing this podcast together right now. So like, I wouldn't be doing this with someone I ain't trying to do this with. I ain't Joe Budden yet, man. I'm not gonna have somebody on the show that I feel like I want to throw a sideline to you. But other than that, man, that's kind of the idea that I said in regards like so. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. I'm gonna say for me, yes, I can respect someone in a role and not respect that person individually at all. I can respect, I respect you, gangster, man. Hey, yo, I respect you out here in these streets. I respect that. You know what? I don't respect what you do, and I don't respect you, but I respect how you marry those two things together. That's that's magnificent. You know, that's how you do it. I don't, but sometimes you just got to give credit where credit is due, even though it's not something you agree with or something you don't like. So, you know, it's one of those things. But I clearly can easily say that I can respect someone for a role and have no respect for them at all. But I won't go out of my way to disrespect that person, nor will I allow that person to disrespect me.
I agree.
Bet. What about you, man? What your take on it?
Well, I kind of thought of like, say, for example, like there's this celebrity soccer player, say Cristiano Ronaldo, right? That a lot of people hate and a lot of people love. Say he can score like the best goal ever, like magnificent, like from the other side of the field. And some people can say, wow, that was an amazing goal, even though I hated how he scored that against my team. So I don't respect him in this silly example just because he's from the opposite team.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can say that takes talent, that takes a lot of courage, that takes a lot of strength, and I can admire how they did that. Does that make sense? So
yeah, oh yeah, that's you just basically explain the LeBron James problem from a soccer reference point of view. So,
or LeBron.
Yeah, like you can hate someone in MMA. You can hate how they are as a character, but you got to respect them for their fighting acumen. You got to respect for how they close out. You got to respect them for what they can do and you know and what they bring to the table, even though you might not personally like that person or personally respect that person. You have to respect their capabilities and in their role that they're playing. You just got to respect it. That's how it be, man.
I agree.
All right, man. Gonna close this one out, man. Hey, Nico, I appreciate you on that one. I got another topic coming up, but y'all stay tuned, all right?